The sun was setting over the vast desert. The Israelites, hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, were finally free after centuries of slavery in Egypt. Their chains were broken, their oppressors defeated, and yet, freedom had only just begun. As they journeyed away from Egypt, following the path God had set for them, hope filled the air. But deep down, fear lingered. They were walking into the unknown, a wilderness stretching endlessly before them. Moses, their leader, walked at the front, carrying the staff God had given him. To the Israelites, that staff had become a symbol of miracles. The same staff God used to turn rivers into blood, to summon plagues upon Egypt, and to bring Pharaoh to his knees. For the first time in generations, they were tasting freedom, but it would soon be tested. Back in Egypt, Pharaoh sat upon his throne, brooding in anger. His pride was wounded. He had let the Israelites go after the death of every firstborn in Egypt. But now regret consumed him. What have we done? Pharaoh thundered to his officials. We've let the Israelites go, and now we've lost our slaves. In a burst of fury, he summoned his army. 600 of his finest chariots, led by elite soldiers, thundered into formation. The ground shook as Egypt's mighty war machines prepared to chase the Israelites into the desert. Pharaoh's heart had hardened once again. He would not rest until he dragged them back or destroyed them completely. Far ahead, the Israelites camped by the Red Sea, unaware of the danger racing toward them. Families gathered around small fires, children laughed, and elders whispered prayers of thanks. But suddenly, in the distance, a cloud of dust rose on the horizon. The thunder of hooves echoed through the air. Then came the cry, "Pharaoh's army! They're coming!" Panic rippled through the camp like wildfire. Mothers clutched their children. Men grabbed whatever they could to defend themselves, and cries of despair filled the air. The people turned on Moses. "Why did you bring us out here?" they shouted. "Weren't there enough graves in Egypt? Did you bring us to the desert to die?" The sea stretched before them. Pharaoh's army raced behind them, trapped, helpless, hopeless. But Moses stood firm. With his staff in hand, he raised his voice above the chaos. "Do not be afraid. Stand still, and you will see the salvation of the Lord. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again." And in that moment, God's presence descended. A pillar of cloud, which had guided the Israelites by day, shifted behind them, creating a wall of divine protection between them and Pharaoh's army. Night fell. On one side, the Egyptians waited in frustration. On the other, the Israelites trembled in uncertainty. But God was not finished. Then God spoke to Moses, "Raise your staff. Stretch out your hand over the sea." Moses obeyed. He walked to the water's edge, lifted his staff high, and stretched out his hand. And suddenly, the impossible happened. A mighty wind roared from the east. The waters of the Red Sea began to churn, rising higher and higher. Before their eyes, the sea split in two, forming towering walls of water on both sides. Between them, a dry path stretched across the seabed. Collective gasp filled the camp. Mothers held their children close. Warriors dropped their weapons in awe. God himself had made a way where there was no way. Moses turned to the people. "Go, walk through the sea." Step by hesitant step, the Israelites entered the path. The walls of water shimmered in the moonlight, like liquid glass frozen in motion. The wind howled, carrying the smell of salt and freedom. When the Egyptians saw the miracle, Pharaoh refused to back down. He ordered his chariots forward. "After them," he roared. The soldiers charged into the sea, racing across the same dry ground. Their wheels churned, their horses neighed, and their shouts echoed against the towering walls of water. But God was watching. Suddenly, chaos erupted among the Egyptian ranks. Chariot wheels jammed, horses stumbled, confusion spread like fire. When the last Israelite stepped safely onto the opposite shore, God spoke again to Moses. "Stretch out your hand over the sea." Moses lifted his staff once more, and the waters collapsed. With a deafening roar, The towering walls of the Red Sea crashed down upon Pharaoh's army. Chariots were swept away. Soldiers vanished beneath the waves. The mightiest empire in the world was powerless before the hand of God. By morning, the waters were still again. The Egyptians were gone. The Israelites stood on the other side, breathless, free, and alive. The silence of the desert was broken by a sound, a song rising from thousands of voices. Moses lifted his hands and led the people in praise. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. Their cries of despair had turned into shouts of victory. Fear had transformed into faith. Death had given way to life. The parting of the Red Sea wasn't just a story of escape. It was a story of trust, courage, and God's power to make a way when all seems lost. When life traps us between Pharaoh and the Red Sea, between fear and the impossible, God is still the same. He still parts seas. He still opens paths where there are none. The Israelites didn't escape Egypt by their own strength. They were saved because God fought for them, and He fights for us too. No matter how deep the waters, no matter how strong the enemy, God's power is greater. As the sun rose over the Red Sea, the Israelites walked forward, step by step, into the wilderness and into their destiny. Behind them lay the ruins of Pharaoh's pride. Before them stretched the unknown. But now they knew one thing for certain. They were never alone, and neither are we.